Some deaths were quick, others were legends. But the punishments you're about to hear, they weren't just about ending a life. They were designed to break the human spirit first. Across ancient empires, kings, judges, and warlords invented torment so horrifying, even death seemed like mercy. These weren't just executions. They were messages, carved into bodies and burned into history. You might think you've heard it all, but nothing prepares you for what came before the guillotine, before bullets, before prison. Let's begin. Number 10. Lingchi. Death by 1,000 cuts. Imagine being tied to a wooden post, blindfolded, while a silent crowd watches. Then comes the blade, not once but over and over again. Tiny incisions at first, then the muscle, then the bone. Known as Lingchi, or death by 1,000 cuts, this Chinese execution method was used as late as the early 1900s. Officially, it was reserved for traitors and heinous criminals. In reality, it was a spectacle of pain. Victims often remained alive deep into the process, their bodies sliced into grotesque pieces as a warning to others. The worst part? Executioners were paid more if the victim survived longer. But as terrifying as knives were, Persia's answer made even insects into instruments of death. Number 9. Scaphism. The insect boat. Take 2 hollowed-out boats, place a man between them, head, hands, and feet sticking out. Feed him honey and milk until he vomits. Then smear his body with the same mixture. And wait. This was Scaphism, a Persian punishment for traitors. The honey drew swarms of flies, wasps, and beetles. The milk rotted in the sun. The victim lay helpless as insects crawled into every orifice. Eyes, nose, even beneath the skin. Death took days, sometimes weeks. But if that was nature's slow poison, Asia had a more theatrical beast of its own. Number 8. Crushed by elephant. Imagine a giant beast trained not for war, but for judgment. In parts of Asia, trained elephants executed prisoners by trampling. But they didn't stomp outright. These elephants were taught to crush slowly, breaking limbs one at a time. In some regions, rulers could even signal the elephant to spare the prisoner at the last second. It was both execution and entertainment. A show of control over nature and man alike. But while elephants crushed bones, the Romans had punishments that twisted cruelty into ritual. Number 7. Poena Cullei, drowned with beasts. Murder your father, and Rome had a very specific sentence for you. It was called Poena Cullei, the punishment of the sack. You'd be sewn into a leather sack with a dog, a monkey, a snake, and a rooster, each animal chosen for symbolic reasons, and then thrown into a river. Imagine struggling for breath as claws and fangs tear at your limbs in the dark, water seeping in. No audience, no grave, just chaos and silence. And if that didn't horrify the Romans enough, they had one other method that defined agony itself. Number 6. Crucifixion, nails through the wrists, ankles pinned. The victim hoisted onto a wooden cross, left to die under the open sun. Crucifixion wasn't just slow, it was theatrical. Death came from dehydration, exposure, and slow asphyxiation as the body slumped under its own weight. Sometimes it took days. The Romans lined roads with crucified rebels as a warning. Defy the empire, and you'll become a signpost. It was a punishment so infamous, one execution in Judea still echoes through billions of lives today. But elsewhere, boiling oil waited for those who displeased the state. Number 5. Boiling alive. The victim was lowered slowly into a cauldron of boiling water or oil. The skin would blister, then melt. Organs failed one by one. It was once used for coin forgers in medieval England and was even codified into law. In Japan, the Warring States era saw daimyos use boiling oil to punish betrayal. This method wasn't just cruel, it was deliberate. A reminder that power could cook rebellion. But when fire wasn't enough, rats were the next cruel invention. Number 4. Rat torture. It starts with a rat, a cage, and a hot coal. Place the cage on a man's stomach, heat the other side. The rat, desperate to escape, claws its way into the only available direction, through the flesh. Descriptions of this method appear in Europe and Ming-era China. Wasn't used to kill outright, but to extract confessions. And the screams, they say, were enough to break even the strongest hearts. Yet even that couldn't stretch the body like the next punishment. Number 3. The rack. The victim was tied hand and foot to rollers, then stretched slowly, relentlessly. Tendons tore, joints snapped. Eventually, the limbs dislocated entirely. The rack was a favorite of inquisitors and torturers across Europe. It left no blood, no obvious wounds, but it destroyed a person from the inside out. And when it wasn't enough to satisfy justice, rulers turned to something far more brutal and very public. Number 2. Drawing and quartering. First, the victim was hanged, but cut down alive. Then disemboweled, often while conscious. The intestines were burned in front of him. Finally, the body was cut into 4 parts and paraded around the kingdom. Drawing and quartering was reserved for high treason. William Wallace of Braveheart fame met this fate. It was the crown's way of saying, "Your legacy dies with you." But some inventors wanted something even cleaner, yet just as cruel. Number 1. The Brazen Bull, roasted alive in bronze. Invented in ancient Greece, possibly by Phalaris, a tyrant of Akragas, the Brazen Bull was a life-sized hollow bronze statue shaped like a bull. The condemned would be locked inside and a fire lit beneath. As the metal heated, the person inside would roast alive, screaming in agony. But here's the gruesome twist. The bull's head had a system of pipes that transformed the victim's screams into bellowing bull-like sounds, making the execution both a torture device and a sick form of theater. According to legend, the bull's inventor was the first to die inside it, after Phalaris wanted to test the sound himself. Human history is filled with beauty, courage, and innovation, but also cruelty that defies imagination. These punishments weren't about justice, they were performances, weapons of fear, messages carved in flesh and fire, and while time has buried many of these methods, echoes remain in our stories, our fears, even our laws. If this glimpse into the brutal past intrigued you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. There's so much more the history books didn't tell you, and here at History Hackers we dig up every disturbing truth. Which punishment shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments.